In this exercise, we're going to solve a system of linear equations by setting up an augmented matrix, and then we're going to solve that matrix by using our graphing calculator. So we'll have our graphing calculator reduce the rows in our matrix down to echelon form and solve the system for us. So if you'd like to follow along, this is on page 233 in your textbook, problem number 3, and it might be a little bit clearer for you to see in the textbook than in this actual video. But here's the scenario. So you have enough space in your garden to plant 55 flowering bulbs, and you're interested in planting two specific types, crocus flowers and daffodil flowers. All right, so you go out and you find out that crocus bulbs cost 35 cents each and daffodil bulbs cost 75 cents each. You also have a budget, so your budget only allows you to spend $25.65 on these bulbs. So the question becomes, how many crocus bulbs are you going to pick up, and then how many daffodil bulbs can you buy if you can only fit a total of 55 bulbs in your garden, right? And this is the cost of buying the flowers, and this is your budget. So the first thing that we need to do before we even start creating the system or writing the equations for the system is let's identify our variables. So we want to know how many crocus bulbs can we buy. So let's call that C and define C as the number of crocus bulbs. Okay, so we don't know how many we can buy yet, but hopefully when we solve the system, we'll find out exactly how many that will be. Okay, let's define the number of daffodil bulbs as D. So D will be the number of daffodil bulbs that we can purchase. Okay, oops. Okay, so now that I've identified my variables, I want to set up my system of equations. So my system must involve two equations. So how do I know that my system has to have two equations? Well, if I have two unknowns, then my system must have at least two equations, right? If you have three unknowns, then your system will have three equations. And if you have four unknowns, and I mean unknown variables, then you will have four equations in your system, etc. So here, because we're only dealing with two variables, this means that my system must have at least two equations. So where are those equations going to come from? Well, if we go back to the problem, notice that we have some information about the total number of bulbs that we can have in our garden. So we can set up an equation to describe that relationship. So we don't know how many crocus bulbs we're going to purchase, and we don't know how many daffodil bulbs we can purchase, but the combination of each must add up to 55. Okay? So if I wanted to, I could buy 50 crocus bulbs and 5 daffodil bulbs for a total of 55, right? But that's not the only thing that we have to consider in this system, right? The other thing that we have to take into consideration is the fact that the crocus bulbs cost us 35 cents each, and the daffodils cost us 75 cents each, and we have a budget of $25.65. So that's where our second equation is going to come from. It's going to come from the total cost of purchasing those bulbs. Okay? All right, so I know that a crocus bulb costs me 35 cents each. So if I purchase one crocus bulb, that's 35 cents. If I decide to buy 10 crocus bulbs, that's going to cost me $3.50, and so on, right? The cost of buying one daffodil bulb is 75 cents, right? So together, depending on the number of crocus bulbs and daffodil bulbs at this specific rate for each type of bulb, right? Together, right, the total cost cannot be more than my budget. So my total cost needs to reach $25.65 and not more. So now I have two equations in my system, and what I'm going to do to solve this system is I'm going to use an augmented matrix. So remember that there's more than one way to solve a system. You can solve this system by using substitution, or you can solve this system by using the method of elimination. You can also solve this system graphically, but in this video I'm going to focus on solving the system by using an augmented matrix. Okay? So to get our augmented matrix, we need to write down the coefficients in front of our variables and then write down our constants. So my first column in my matrix, I'm going to call that first column C. My second column is going to represent D. And then my third column is going to represent the constants. Okay, so when you're writing an augmented matrix, all you're doing is writing down the coefficient in front of the variables in your equation. So in the first row here, the first row will be my first equation. The coefficient in front of C is 1. The coefficient in front of D is also 1, and my constant is 55. For my second row in my matrix, that will come from my second equation. All right, the first column comes from the coefficient in front of C, so that's 0.35. The coefficient in front of D is 0.75, and my constant in the second row is 25.65. Okay, so here is my matrix, and what I'm going to do to get the solution is I'm going to row reduce this matrix into echelon form. So in short, row reduce into echelon form, that's RREF. So when I row reduce this into echelon form, I'm trying to get this matrix to become a form that looks like this. 1, 0 in the first row, and 0, 1 in my second row, and then I need some number, right? Some constant. Okay, so we need to find out what these constants are. So we're going to go to our graphing calculator now and have our calculator do the calculation for us. So in your calculator, what you're going to do is you're going to use this matrix function right here. So I'm going to press second and this button here, and it's going to pull up the matrix function. Notice that you have 3 tabs. I'm going to tab over to the third tab, and I'm going to edit my matrix. So I need to actually input these values into a matrix. So right now, I'm going to edit it into matrix 1, which is called matrix A. So that's just the name that we're giving the matrix to save it into our calculator. So go ahead and press enter. And you need to indicate the number of rows and the number of columns of your matrix. So right here we have a matrix that is a 2 by 3. So it's always row times column. So I have a matrix that is has 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so notice that it brings up a 2 by 3 matrix, and then now we're going to just type in our numbers. So I'm going to type in 1, 1, 55. And then the second row is 0.35, 0.75, and then 25.65. Okay, so now that I have my matrix, I'm going to get out of this window. So to get out, just quit by pressing second and then this button here. Now what I'm going to do is go back into the matrix, and this time I'm going to choose the second tab, Math. Under this tab here, if you scroll down to B, you'll see that one of the options is to perform the RREF. So not REF, but RREF, which means to row reduce my matrix in echelon form. So go ahead and choose that. And then notice your cursor is blinking now. So your cursor, your calculator is saying, which matrix do you want me to row reduce into echelon form? So we're going to go back into the matrix. So press second and that button to get back into the matrix. And this time you're going to use the first tab. So it's already highlighted. And I'm going to choose the matrix that we called A, which was the 2 by 3 matrix. So that was this matrix that we typed in previously. So we're going to choose that one. And now we're telling the calculator to row reduce that specific matrix that we had typed in. So press enter, and then the calculator gives you the solution. So it says 1, 0, 39, 0, 1, 16. Okay, let's write this down. So this is 39, and this is 16. Let me double check that because I already forgot. Yes, 39 and 16. Okay. All right, so let's talk about what the solution tells us. Remember that we called this first column C and we called the second column D. So what this first row tells us is it gives us the coefficient in front of these variables. So this first row says that 1C plus 0D equals 39. Okay, well, let's simplify this. 1c is the same thing as c, and 0 times d is 0. So this tells me that c is equal to 39. So that means that we can buy 39 crocus bulbs. Okay, let me scroll up here. Now let's talk about what the second row is telling us. The second row says that 0 times c plus 1 times d is equal to 16. Okay, again, let's simplify this. 0 times c is 0, and 1 times d is just d. So this second row tells us that d is equal to 16, which means that we can purchase 16 daffodil bulbs. Daffodil bulbs. Keep misspelling bulbs. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's the solution to this system, and it's also the solution to the question that we asked previously. How many crocus bulbs and how many daffodil bulbs can we purchase? And you can also check your answer too. If we go back and check our answer, we can go back to our equation here, right? And let's double check. Does 39 plus 16 equal 55? Right? And that does check out, right? 55 equals 55. All right, so that works out. Now let's check our second equation. Let's substitute in 16. So let's substitute in 39 for C, and substitute in 16 for D. Right? Let's do our multiplication here. So let me go back to my calculator real quickly and just type in, right, 35 cents times 39. That gives me $13.65, so $13.65. And then let's calculate what 75 cents times 16 is. 75, I'm purchasing 16 of them, so that's another $12. All right, and let's check. 12 plus 13.65, does that equal $25.65? So 12 plus $13.65. Right, and it does, $25.65, $25.65. So the second equation also checks out, so this tells me that my solution is correct. C is 39 and D is 16. That's really fun, right?